The air inside the cold metal cell was thick with tension, but Aelara had stopped struggling long ago. Her four-clawed hands rested against her lap, tail wrapped tight around her ankles, every muscle locked in quiet resignation. This was the end. She had seen what happened to others taken by the human. The stories of her people spoke of them as monsters, feral, insatiable predators with bottomless hunger. It was said they could rip the flesh from bone with their bare hands and that their rage knew no bounds. The captured never returned. No one knew what happened after they were taken. They simply disappeared. She knew what would happen next. He would come, and she would be devoured. The cell door slid open, and a shadow loomed over her. Aelara's muscles coiled, her reptilian eyes narrowing as she glared up at him, prepared for the moment of pain, the inevitable sharp teeth against her skin. But it never came. Instead, he knelt before her, a strange expression on his face, curiosity, concern. His voice, when he spoke, was softer than she expected, yet firm, steady. "You're starving. You need food." Aelara blinked. She had heard the words, but they made no sense. The human reached into a small pouch and pulled out something, extending it toward her. A piece of food. It smelled sweet, unlike anything she had ever encountered. She recoiled instinctively, pressing herself against the farthest corner of the cell. "Is this a trick? Do you fatten your prey before the kill?" The human sighed and, instead of forcing it upon her, took a bite himself, chewing slowly before placing the rest on the floor between them. "Eat it, or don't. But you look like you haven't had a decent meal in days." Her stomach twisted painfully at the scent, but her mind warred with itself. This was wrong. This was not how humans behaved. They conquered. They consumed. They killed. Yet he only watched. What are you?" she whispered. A chuckle. "A guy who's trying to help. Asterisk asterisk asterisk." It took hours before hunger won over fear. Her hands trembled as she picked up the food, sniffing carefully before taking the smallest of bites. Her body betrayed her in an instant. The moment the taste hit her tongue, she devoured the rest, unable to stop herself. The human, his name was Connor, she had learned, watched silently, his arms resting against his knees as he sat cross-legged just outside the cell. No weapons. No chains. Just patience. And then he said something that sent a shiver through her bones. "You're not my prisoner. You never were. I just found you out there. You were half dead." Aelara froze mid-chew. Lies. The humans do not take prisoners. They do not spare. They conquer. Connor leaned back, running a hand through his short brown hair, exhaling sharply. "Yeah, I've heard those stories too. I wonder why, though. I mean, from what I've seen, your people shoot first. There's never been a chance for anything else." Aelara's throat tightened. She wanted to argue, to fight, to tell him he was wrong, but deep down, she knew. She had been raised on the doctrine of fear. She had been told from birth that the humans were creatures of destruction. But in all that time, had anyone ever truly stopped to ask why the war had started in the first place? The thought rattled her more than it should have. Connor stood, stretching his limbs before nodding toward the door. "You can leave if you want. But you won't make it far out there alone. You're still too weak." Her eyes darted between the open door and his unreadable expression. Freedom. He was offering it freely. She should have bolted. She should have run without hesitation. Yet, her legs refused to move. She had been so certain of his cruelty. But now, she wasn't sure of anything anymore. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. Over the next few days, Aelara found herself watching him more closely, searching for the moment his mask would slip, the moment he would prove her fears right. But it never came. He shared food with her, taught her how to tend to her wounds, and perhaps the strangest thing of all, spoke to her as if she were his equal. He asked her questions, real questions, about her people, about what life had been like before the war. And for the first time in her life, she found herself answering. She told him about the great spires of her homeworld, the way the twin moons bathed the oceans in silver light. She spoke of her family, the friends she had lost. And in return, he spoke of Earth. He described towering forests that stretched for miles, vast oceans teeming with life, cities glowing bright against the night sky. He spoke of art, of music, of 1,000 little wonders she had never known existed. It was intoxicating. "I don't understand you," she admitted one night as they sat beside a dim lamp, the ship humming quietly around them. "You are not what I was told." Connor smirked. "And you're not the monster I was told about, either. Funny how that works." She stared at him, feeling something strange settle in her chest. It was fear, yes, but not of him. It was the fear of uncertainty, of the possibility that everything she had believed was a lie. "If everything they taught me was wrong," she murmured, "then what am I supposed to do now?" Connor reached into his pocket and pulled out a small device, flipping it between his fingers before holding it out to her. A datapad, its screen displaying a set of star charts. "That," he said, "is up to you." Aelara hesitated before taking it, her claws brushing against his fingers ever so slightly. A silent choice. For the first time in her life, she was free to decide. And that terrified her more than anything else. The silence between them stretched, heavy with uncertainty. Aelara clutched the datapad, her claws tracing its smooth surface. The choice before her loomed like a black hole impossible to ignore, terrifying to confront. Connor had offered her something she had never known before, freedom. But freedom came with its own burdens. She wasn't sure she was ready to bear them. "You really think it's that simple?" she finally asked, her voice quiet, hesitant. "That I can just walk away? Choose my own path?" Connor leaned against the wall, arms crossed. "Yeah, I do." She wanted to believe him. But years of conditioning, of fear, held her back. Her people didn't get to choose. They obeyed. They survived. And yet, here she was, alive, with nothing but a human offering her an open door. "If I leave this room, then what?" she pressed. "Where would I even go?" Connor exhaled, rubbing his face before nodding toward the viewport. "There's a whole damn galaxy out there, Aelara. You could go anywhere. Do anything. You're not shackled to the past unless you choose to be." She turned toward the stars beyond the window, her reflection barely visible against the endless void. The thought of stepping into that unknown, untethered, was both exhilarating and terrifying. "And what if I stay?" she asked. Connor hesitated, his expression unreadable. "Then you stay. I'm not keeping you prisoner. But I won't pretend that things will be easy. If you stick around, you're gonna have to start making choices for yourself. No one's gonna make them for you." Aelara tightened her grip on the datapad. The idea of staying, of learning more about this human and his world, sent a strange warmth through her chest. For so long, she had been told that humans were only capable of destruction. Yet Connor had done nothing but extend kindness. It was a contradiction she couldn't ignore. She glanced at him, searching his face for deception, for the cruel trick she had been conditioned to expect. But there was only patience in his gaze, a quiet understanding that unsettled her in ways she couldn't quite name. Finally, she let out a slow breath. "I need time." Connor nodded. "Take all the time you need." Asterisk asterisk asterisk. Over the following days, Aelara watched him closely. She observed how he moved, how he spoke, how he carried himself with a casual confidence that baffled her. He was not like the warriors of her people, who spoke in rigid commands and obeyed without question. Connor operated with a fluidity she had never encountered before, making decisions in the moment, adapting without hesitation. It was fascinating. He showed her how to navigate the ship, how to read human technology, even how to prepare food that didn't come from a pre-packaged ration. It was a slow, cautious trust-building process, but every day chipped away at the walls she had built around herself. "So, what's your plan?" she asked one evening as they sat in the ship's mess, a steaming plate of food between them. "You're out here alone. Are you looking for something?" Connor chewed thoughtfully before shrugging. "Not really. Just seeing where life takes me." Aelara frowned. "That's it. No mission. No orders. Nope. That's reckless." He smirked. "Maybe. But it's my recklessness. I get to decide where I go, what I do. No one breathing down my neck, telling me what's right or wrong." She stared at him, struggling to understand. "My people would call that madness." "Maybe. Or maybe it's just another way to live. Aelara mulled over his words long after their conversation ended. Was that truly all it took? Just choosing? Asterisk asterisk asterisk. The turning point came in the dead of night. The ship's alarm blared, ripping Aelara from sleep. Instinct took over before rational thought. She reached for the weapon she no longer had, breath caught in her throat. Connor's voice crackled through the comms. "We've got company. Stay in your quarters." She ignored the command, bolting toward the control room. Through the viewport, she saw them, 3 vessels, sleek and dark, moving like predators in the void. Her gut twisted. She recognized the markings. They were hers. "They're scanning us," Connor muttered, his fingers flying over the controls. "Doesn't look like they're attacking. Yet." Aelara's blood ran cold. "They won't attack. Not immediately. They're waiting." Connor glanced at her. "For what?" She swallowed hard. "For me." Realization dawned in his eyes. "They think we took you prisoner. They won't leave until I'm aboard one of their ships. If I don't go willingly, they'll destroy us both." Connor exhaled sharply, considering their options. "So, what's it gonna be? You going back?" She hesitated. The logical answer was yes. She should return. It was the safe choice, the expected choice. But something deep inside her twisted at the thought. Returning meant surrendering the sliver of freedom she had tasted. It meant going back to a life where her choices were made for her. Where she obeyed without question. But staying meant defiance. It meant making a choice, a real choice, for the first time in her life. She met Connor's gaze. "No." He grinned. "Good answer." The ships outside began their final approach. Whatever happened next, Aelara knew there was no turning back. The ship trembled as the enemy vessels drew closer. Aelara's pulse pounded in her ears, but she forced herself to stay calm. There was no turning back now. Connor's fingers danced over the controls, his jaw set. "They're hailing us." Aelara swallowed hard. "Put them through." A harsh voice filled the cockpit. "Unknown human vessel, you are harboring a fugitive of the Zalthara Dominion. Surrender her immediately." Aelara's gut twisted at the word fugitive. Just days ago, she would have considered herself a loyal subject of the Dominion. Now, she wasn't so sure. Connor shot her a glance, his expression unreadable. "Your call." Aelara took a deep breath. "Patch me through." The comm crackled before she spoke, her voice firm. "Commander Ralvek, I am not a prisoner. I was left for dead, and this human saved my life." There was a pause. Then, a bitter chuckle. "You sound well enough, Aelara. But you know the laws. You were taken by an enemy. You are compromised. Return now, and your transgressions may be forgiven." Forgiven. As if she had committed a crime. Aelara's hands curled into fists. "I made a choice. You don't have the right to make such choices." Connor rolled his eyes. "Really? That's your angle?" The commander ignored him. "Aelara, this is your last chance. Step onto our ship willingly, or we will take you by force." The threat hung heavy in the air. Aelara glanced at Connor. He gave her a small nod, silently letting her decide. Her decision had already been made. She squared her shoulders. "I'm not going back." The line went dead. An instant later, the enemy ships powered up their weapons. Connor cursed. "Brace yourself." The ship rocked as the first blast struck their shields. Sparks flew, the lights flickered. Aelara grabbed onto the control panel to steady herself. "They're going to board us," she said grimly. "That's what I'd do." Connor grinned, despite the chaos. "Then let's make sure they regret it." Asterisk asterisk asterisk. The boarding clamps latched onto their hull with a sickening clang. Aelara and Connor barely had time to grab their weapons before the first breach was made. The air filled with the sharp hiss of depressurization. Then, the doors burst open. The Zalthara soldiers stormed in, weapons raised. Aelara moved before they could react, using the ship's tight corridors to her advantage. She slashed at the nearest one with her claws, sending him sprawling. Connor fired, taking out another. The battle was fast and brutal. Aelara fought with everything she had, her instincts sharper than ever. For the first time, she was not following orders, she was fighting for herself. The ship shuddered again. More are coming, Connor said, reloading. We need to get them off our ship. Aelara spotted the solution instantly. The emergency decompression hatch. We vent them into space. Connor's grin widened. I like how you think. They fell back to the control panel. Aelara keyed in the sequence, her hands moving fast. The soldiers, realizing what was happening, rushed forward, but it was too late. With a deafening whoosh, the airlock opened. The intruders were sucked into the void before they could even scream. The emergency doors sealed shut behind them. Aelara exhaled, her chest rising and falling rapidly. Connor clapped her on the shoulder. Not bad. She allowed herself a small, sharp smile. Not bad yourself. The comm crackled again. Commander Ralvek's voice was cold. You've made your choice, Aelara. There will be no mercy when we meet again. The enemy ships disengaged, retreating into the void. For now. Connor leaned against the console, shaking his head. Well, that escalated quickly. Aelara gazed out at the endless stars, her fate now fully her own. The war was far from over. But for the first time, she felt truly alive. The silence that followed the battle felt deafening. Aelara stood at the viewport, watching the enemy ships disappear into the vastness of space. Her body ached from the fight, but her mind was sharper than ever. She had made her choice, and now she had to live with the consequences. Connor leaned against the control panel, studying her carefully. So, he said, breaking the quiet, what now? She turned to face him. The question lingered in the air, heavy with meaning. There was no going back. She was an exile now, an enemy to her own people. But for the first time, that thought didn't fill her with dread. It filled her with purpose. I don't know, she admitted. But I think that's the point. Connor smirked. Welcome to freedom. It's messy, but it's worth it. Aelara exhaled slowly, considering his words. She had spent her entire life being told what to do, who to be. Now, for the first time, she had to figure that out on her own. It was terrifying, but it was also exhilarating. She glanced back at the controls. Your ship took a beating. We need supplies. Connor raised an eyebrow. Are you saying you want to stick around? Aelara met his gaze, unwavering. You saved my life. And you showed me a different way to live. I think I'd like to see where this road leads. Connor grinned. Well then, let's get started. He pushed off the control panel and headed toward the navigation console. Aelara followed, a sense of determination settling in her chest. She wasn't running anymore. She wasn't hiding. She was forging her own path. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. The journey ahead wasn't going to be easy. There would be battles, dangers, and impossible choices. But Aelara knew one thing for certain, she would never again let someone else dictate her fate. As their ship jumped into hyperspace, leaving the past behind, she allowed herself to hope. Maybe, just maybe, she could build something new. Something better. And for the first time in her life, she truly felt free. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. Asterisk asterisk moral asterisk asterisk true freedom isn't given, it's taken. It's earned through choices, through courage, through the willingness to defy the path others set for you. Aelara had been told what her destiny was, but only by breaking free did she truly begin to live. The hardest choices often lead to the greatest rewards, and the future belongs to those brave enough to claim it.